Hello, in this video I am going to explain how to set up your company's business hours in the Callbell chatbot flow. This setup is mainly used to define the actions and messages the chatbot will take according to the availability set by your company or business. This means that if a user messages us during the set business hours, the chatbot will follow a predefined flow. But if the user messages outside of those hours, the chatbot will follow a different flow. To better understand the logic in this video, we first need to be clear about our business hours. We can face three scenarios at this stage. We only work on weekdays, we work every day of the week, or we work on some days of the week. In all cases, we need to set the availability hours, both for weekends and weekdays or the days our advisors work. This way, the chatbot can recognize even the days we don't work or the hours we are outside business hours. This means that both branches of our chatbot have different logics. Alright, let's start with this tutorial. First, what we are going to do is create a new chatbot. For this video, I will use this one I created earlier, but before continuing, I want to explain some basic points. In the main window of our visual builder, we see two boxes. The first one is titled Wait for a Response, and it indicates that our chatbot's flow will start when a user sends us a message. The second box is titled Add Action. If we click on it, we can add different types of actions we want the chatbot to perform. In this case, for setting up the schedules, we are going to use a specific logic called new choice, and it will indicate to the chatbot which action to take within a conversation depending on one or more specific factors. For demonstrative purposes, I've created a small chatbot for a restaurant that sends the menu to customers. As you can see, when the bot receives the first message from a customer, it sends a welcome message that we've pre-configured. Then, we create a new logic of the new choice type, where we set the condition to send the menu to be if the user writes the words menu, dishes, price, etc. Once the bot detects that this condition is met, it proceeds to send the menu to the customer. Now, in the same way, we will configure the business hours in our chatbot, with the difference that we will configure them before our bot's first welcome message. What we will do is configure a new logic of the new choice type and title it Absence, and we will establish two conditions. The first is that the chatbot will take action if the current time is before, and we set the time our service hours start. And the second action we will configure is if the current time is after, and we set the time our customer service hours end. Then we add a new variable for the days of the week, and depending on the schedule we are setting, we will select whether it is a weekend or not. And finally, we set our time zone so that the chatbot takes our time into account to take the action we configure later. In this way, our bot will be set up to perform a specific action when we are off hours. And finally, we click on Save. As you can see, a different branch from the main one has been created. To this branch, we will add the absence message that the chatbot will send to our clients in case they write to us outside of working hours during the week. This means that if the current time is before 8 o'clock in the morning or after 6 o'clock in the evening, and it is not a weekend, the bot will send the absence message. Finally, to set up the second schedule which corresponds to the weekend, we are going to follow the steps we developed earlier, taking into account the working hours of those days, and thus when the chatbot detects that the conditions we configured are met. That is, we are outside the weekend hours, it will automatically take the corresponding branch and send the absence message. Hey wait, before finishing the video, I would like to explain what would happen if we want the chatbot, when attending to a person outside the established hours, to send that person to the original bot flow, or perform other action additionally, not just receive an absence message. In this case, we have several options that we can perform, where we will explain in each one how the flow works outside the established service hours. First case, or case number 1, tell the client to contact during regular business hours. We have already configured this option before. To configure this action, which is the simplest of all, we just need to create a new message type interaction below the branch we created to set the schedules. In this option, we will put our absence message, telling the user to contact us later during business hours when agents are available. Second case. dismiss the client, but also assign them to an agent and offer to continue with some qualification questions. This option is configured when you want the chatbot to assign the conversation to an agent and offer the client to continue with some qualification questions, making it clear that they will not be attended to immediately because they are reaching out during off hours, but an agent will attend to their request as soon as they are available. In this case, we will follow the same example as the previous case, with the difference that in the absence message, we will tell the user that they have contacted us outside of working hours. But one of our agents will assist you as soon as possible. Additionally, if you wish, you can answer some qualifying questions. We will add two buttons to this message, one for yes and one for no, so the user can decide if they want to continue with the questions or not. Finally, for the buttons to work, we will create a new interaction of the wait for response type below the absence message. After that, we create a new logic of the new choice type where we will set some conditions. First, we add a title. In this case, I'll use absence message response. Then we select the trigger. The user's last response is yes. Next, we add a confirmation message to the yes button, and as the next step, we set an action to assign a team or user as needed. After that, we select a new logic of the continue to type and choose the main branch welcome message of the chat. Lastly, if the user responds that they do not wish to continue with the questions in the branch that was enabled next to the new choice option called response, we simply create a new assign action and choose user or group depending on what we want. This way, if the user wants to continue, they are automatically assigned a user or team and redirected to the main branch of the bot. And if they choose no, they are assigned a team to attend to their message as soon as possible. Third case, add a scheduled check-in to our time settings. The scheduled check-in is simply an action that the chatbot performs at certain times within our absence schedule to see if we are back during regular business hours to attend to a client who contacted us outside business hours. This is done to create a dynamic where, after a client writes outside business hours, an automatic event is triggered at specific times we set, ideally every 30 minutes, to check if we are available again. If we are, an agent is automatically assigned to the conversation and a message is sent to inform the client that we are back. To achieve this, we go to our absence message. Whether in the week or weekend setting, it works the same in both cases. Below this message, we will create a new interaction of the type wait for a response, and below that, we will create a new logic of the type continue to, and let it continue back to our out of office message, so that when a user writes outside of business hours, the chatbot will send an out of office message saying goodbye to the user and indicating that they should get in touch at another time. If the user replies, the chatbot will send the same out of office message again until the user gets tired or stops responding. However, this has created a problem. It has generated an infinite loop where, if the user doesn't get tired of replying to the absence message, they will receive the same message over and over again. To solve this issue, we will create a programmed fallback by assigning a waiting time to our waiting for response interaction. What's underneath the away message? We usually set it to activate every 30 minutes if the user doesn't respond to our away message. A new branch called scheduled fallback will appear. Under this branch, we create a logic type called continue to. We choose for it to continue to the same action of waiting for a response beneath our away message, like this. If the user gets tired of replying and receiving the same message every 30 minutes, the programmed fallback will activate. However, we still need the most important step for this programmed fallback to work correctly and check every 30 minutes if we are back during our availability hours. To do this, we will add new logic under the waiting for response action of a new choice type. In this logic, we will set up our weeks or weekends absence schedule depending on the days we are configuring. In the same way as we set it up earlier, we will do this so that the chatbot checks every 30 minutes if we are back to regular business hours and notify the client that we are back online and offer the options we think are best. For example, asking them to write us again, answering some questions before being attended to, or simply indicating that we are back and sending them to the regular chatbot flow. Remember that this is something you can customize to your own liking and needs, and indicate to the bot the actions that are most convenient for your business depending on your goals. fourth case. Set up different office hours for one or more specific days of the week. This specific setup is done with the idea that if your business has different hours for certain days of the week, the chatbot can distinguish between each of them and take the corresponding actions as needed, depending on the day and time. In this way, if we have a schedule for 3 days of the week and another for the rest of the days, the bot will distinguish the configuration for each group of hours and will act accordingly. To do this, the first thing we'll do is create 2 new choice logics for different weekdays. In this case, I'll title them Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Next, we set up a trigger choice for each day with the formula current weekday is Tuesday, the current working day is Thursday, and the current working day is Saturday. Finally, we add another activation choice formula where we tell the chatbot the out of hours times for those days and select if the current time is before and after your usual business hours for those days. This way, the chatbot will take action if the client writes outside of business hours on those specific days of the week. Lastly, we click Save. Next, to finish and set up the remaining days, we only have to repeat the previously mentioned steps, with the difference that now we add the missing days of the week that we have not configured and that have different opening hours, for example, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Now that we are done, as you can see, for each day of the week, the chatbot sends the away message during different business hours, following the steps we have configured in this tutorial. As always, remember that you can modify and customize these settings to your own liking. Regardless of whether your business operates on a different schedule each day of the week, our chatbot can perfectly adapt to the dynamic you handle day to day. I hope this tutorial helps you understand how to set your company's hours. However, if you still have questions, I invite you to contact our support team for additional help. I am sure one of our team members will gladly assist you. See you in the next tutorial.